I grew up in a house where love was offered only to those who earned it, and respect was reserved only for those who fit my father's definition of success. From the day I learned to speak, my father drilled one belief into me: I was a failure. Not because I actually failed, but because I wasn't like my older brother, Adam, the perfect son, the athlete, the star student, the pride of the family. I was simply Mia, the quiet girl who preferred books to people and dreams to loud achievements. Every morning, while Adam polished his trophies, I sat silently at the kitchen table sketching business ideas in my notebook. My father would walk by, stare at me with irritation, and mutter, "That's a waste of time. You'll never succeed with that nonsense." Those words became a soundtrack to my childhood. My mother didn't speak up. Adam didn't care. And I grew up believing that maybe my father was right, maybe I wasn't enough. When I turned 18, I applied to college, hoping for a fresh start. Instead of congratulations, my father laughed in my face. College. You'll drop out in a semester," he said, waving me off as if I were a joke. "You're just not built for anything big." I clenched my teeth, swallowed the embarrassment, and promised myself I would prove him wrong. I left home not with support but with a duffel bag and a burning determination. College was hard, but not harder than living under a roof where I was a disappointment. I worked 3 part-time jobs: cashier in the morning, tutor in the afternoon, waitress at night. My father didn't call. My mother didn't text. Adam never visited. I was invisible to them unless they needed someone to compare him to. But my silence was not weakness. It was fuel. During my second year of college, I discovered a house listed for foreclosure, a run-down property with damaged walls, broken windows, and a price tag so low it felt like fate. It wasn't pretty, but it was potential. I used every dollar I had saved from my jobs and bought it. For months, I lived inside that broken house while repairing it with my own hands. I learned plumbing from YouTube videos, painting from community workshops, and electrical safety from night classes. That house became my first success. I rented it, invested the income, and repeated the process. By 22, I owned 4 houses. By 25, 11. Then I created a small real estate company, nothing flashy, nothing loud, just steady income and quiet wins. Every victory was a whisper in my heart saying, "You're not a failure." Years passed with no contact from my father. Until one day, fate knocked gently. A letter arrived at my office. My assistant handed it to me with a raised eyebrow, noticing my frozen expression when I saw the sender's name, Daniel Grant. My father. I opened it, and my breath caught when I read the contents. He was asking to meet. Curiosity mixed with old hurt, and after 3 days of hesitation, I agreed. We met at a cafe near my old neighborhood. When he walked in, I felt nothing. No pain, no love, just distance. He looked older, tired, worn, and strangely nervous. "Mia," he greeted stiffly, as if my name tasted unfamiliar. "You've changed." I replied. There was silence until he cleared his throat and leaned forward, hands clasped tight. "I need help." I blinked, unsure if I'd heard him correctly. He continued, explaining how he had fallen behind on mortgage payments, debts were piling up, and he might lose the house if he couldn't negotiate with the new property holder. I kept listening, my heartbeat slowing. Then he said the words that made the world pause around me. "The person now owning the property is impossible to reach. I don't know who they are. But I need you to talk to them. You're good with people. Maybe you can convince them not to evict us." I stared at him, not speaking. Not breathing. Because I knew exactly who the owner was. It was me. And he had no idea. I kept my face calm as my father spoke, but a storm of emotions churned quietly inside me. The same man who once called me a failure was now sitting across from me, asking for help like I was his last hope. There was something almost surreal about hearing desperation in the voice that once dismissed me so easily. "What happened exactly?" I asked, pretending ignorance. He sighed heavily. "I made some bad investments. Your brother, too. We thought we could turn things around, but it snowballed. Now the bank sold the mortgage to a private buyer." He rubbed his forehead like the weight of the world was sitting on it. "We're behind on payments. They sent a letter saying they'll take legal action if we don't resolve it." I looked at him carefully. "Why not ask Adam?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. His jaw tightened. "He's not in a position to help." He didn't elaborate, and I didn't ask. For years Adam was the golden boy, the one my father invested everything into: money, pride, attention. That pedestal had always been built on sand. "So you came to me," I said quietly. He didn't meet my eyes. You're the only one who's done anything with your life. The irony nearly made me laugh. He praised me now, not out of pride, but out of desperation. I didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing how those words stung. I'll see what I can do, I said in a steady voice. Relief flooded his expression so quickly it almost hurt to watch. He reached across the table as if wanting to take my hand, but I subtly shifted back. The message was clear. That chapter of my life was closed. I left the cafe feeling strangely numb. It wasn't revenge I wanted, it was clarity. And the universe had handed it to me neatly. When I reached home, I pulled out the original property file for the house I had bought years ago, the very house I once lived in, felt invisible in, cried in. I ran my fingers over the document. My name, my signature, my property. The house he believed he still controlled was mine entirely. Purchased, paid off, renovated, restored. I had turned my childhood wounds into ownership. The next morning, I drafted an official letter on my company's letterhead and sent it to the address, his house, my house. It stated politely but firmly that the owner required an in-person meeting to discuss the debt and property terms. A week later, my father showed up outside my office looking smaller, worn down, and anxious. When my assistant led him into my private meeting room, he froze halfway through the door. His eyes landed on the framed certificate on the wall bearing my company name. Then on the photos of properties I had bought. Then on me, sitting at the polished wooden desk. He blinked. This is your office. Yes, I said calmly. Have a seat. He sat slowly like his body hurt. You've built all this. He gestured around with disbelief. I have. How? He whispered, confusion mixing with shame. By being the failure you said would never succeed, I replied without emotion. He swallowed hard, guilt flickering in his eyes. You've done more than I expected. Less than you believed I was capable of, I corrected. Let's get to business. He nodded hesitantly, and I pulled out the house file. I'll speak to the property owner now, he said. You already have, I replied. His brow furrowed. What do you mean? I turned the file around so he could see the name on the deed. Mia Grant. His daughter. The one he overlooked. The one he dismissed. The one he told would never succeed. He stared at the document, his face slowly draining of color. You own the house. His voice cracked. I've owned it for 8 years, I said. Silence fell between us as the truth settled like cold weight. All the years of insults, the dismissive comments, the favoritism, all while I quietly became the owner of the roof above his head. Finally, he whispered, what are you going to do? I leaned back, steepling my fingers, watching him the way he once watched me, with judgment. That depends, I said. For once in your life, are you ready to listen? My father sat across from me, shoulders slumped, hands trembling slightly, as if the truth of who owned the house had stripped away the last piece of pride he clung to. It felt strange, almost unsettling, to see him fragile like this after a lifetime of watching him tower over me with certainty and authority. Now he looked like a man facing a storm with no shelter. I'm listening, he said quietly. I studied him for a long moment. Do you even understand what you did to me? I asked. My voice wasn't angry, it was steady, calm, but filled with years of buried truth. He looked up slowly. I was hard on you. You broke me, I corrected. Every day you told me I wasn't enough. That I'd fail. You never pushed Adam like that. You protected his mistakes, encouraged his dreams, celebrated his attempts, but with me, you never saw anything worth supporting. Only something to criticize. He swallowed, guilt heavy in his expression. I thought tough love would make you stronger. No, I said. You thought I wasn't worth gentle love. My father closed his eyes briefly, the pain of my words hitting him harder than I expected. When he opened them again, they looked tired, defeated, but still sincere. You became stronger anyway, he said softly. Despite me. Not because of me. It was the first time he had ever admitted such a thing. I took a long breath. This situation, you and Mom facing eviction, it didn't happen by accident. You were so focused on making Adam successful that you didn't notice the house slipping into debt. You didn't notice anything at all. He nodded, shame consuming him. You're right. I lost control of everything. And now, I said, leaning forward, you're asking for help. From the failure who would never succeed. He lowered his gaze, unable to meet mine. I'm asking my daughter. For a moment, everything inside me stilled. I had wanted to hear that for years, but now that it came, it felt hollow, late, almost meaningless. I'm going to give you 2 options, I told him. His head lifted, eyes alert with fear. Option 1, I continued, I forgive the debt, let you and Mom stay in the house, and we start over. But only if you acknowledge me, respect me, and treat me as your daughter, not a disappointment. My father's breath caught. I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before: humility. And option 2? He asked. Option 2, I said calmly, I sell the house, use the money for my next property project, and you start over somewhere else. On your own. The silence between us sharpened, tense and unblinking. I could see the panic in his eyes, the fear of losing everything, the fear of facing a life without the security he always assumed would be there. But beneath that fear, I saw something else: regret. Real regret. Mia, he said slowly, his voice unsteady, I'm sorry. For everything. For every word I said that made you doubt yourself. I was wrong. I was blind. And I'm proud of you. Those were the words I spent half my life wanting to hear, but in that moment, they didn't set me free. I had already freed myself years ago. I don't need your pride, I said gently. I just needed the truth. He nodded, tears gathering in his eyes. My father, the man who never cried, blinked rapidly. Trying to keep his composure. I want the first option, he said, if you'll allow it. I let his words settle. He wasn't asking from entitlement, like he always had. He was asking from humility, from fear, from love, maybe, in his own flawed way. You can stay, I finally said. Both of you. But I will set the rules, and you will follow them. He nodded instantly. We will. And Adam? I asked. We're not living with him anymore, he said, shaking his head. He made his choices. I didn't pry. Whatever had happened, my father was finally seeing reality. As I walked him to the door, he turned to look at me one last time. You didn't fail, he whispered. I did. When he left, I stood alone in my office, the sunlight catching the edges of my certificates, my property photos, my achievements. All the things I built while nobody believed in me. My revenge wasn't in owning the house. It wasn't in watching him humbled. It wasn't even in making him ask for help. The real revenge was this. I succeeded anyway. Not because of him, but in spite of him, and now he finally knew it.